Hello, everybody. Welcome to What's in the Box Score. This is episode 20. You may notice there is no Rick Wiener here tonight. My good friend Noah is here tonight at NoahLions01 on Twitter. Noah and I used to write for the same baseball website, which will not be named because screw those guys.
That'll be a separate episode.
Yeah, I hope some of you were watching. But Noah is diehard Angels fan, really good just baseball guy. I mean, you're one of the better modern baseball guys I know, to be quite honest with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Hyping me up.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show this week.
It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Like I said earlier, we had to place Rick on the IL with cold and flu-like symptoms. He DM'd me earlier saying, unless he wanted me muting his microphone every 5 seconds and making faces that would scare the kids away, it might not be the best idea to have him on the show this week. So I got Noah. I did send out, I don't think you saw it, but I did send out like a help wanted tweet. I
didn't see that actually.
Yeah, I was like, looking for guest host on podcast tonight. Please DM me if interested. It didn't work. So I DM'd Noah about 20 minutes before we hopped in the call. And thankfully you were available.
Yes, indeed.
So, like I said, make sure to follow him on Twitter at NoahLions01. Follow all of us. All of them are in the ticker below. Marker_box. Rick is at Rick Wiener NY, and the show is box_score_pod. I really wish I came up with a better handle that was easier to say because that one's a pain in the ass, but hey.
It's a great name, though, I would say.
So make sure to do that. Follow us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff. But let's get into some Major League Baseball, Noah.
Let's do it.
It's been a hell of a week for Major League Baseball. We are still waiting for Miguel Cabrera to get his 3,000th hit. It almost happened last night. He went 3 for 4. He came up in the 9th inning and couldn't quite get it done, or the 8th inning. Couldn't quite get it done. Then he took an 0 for today. And Aaron Boone, which, man, I sort of wish Rick was here. No, by the way, Rick is a diehard Yankees fan who hates Aaron Boone with a burning passion.
I've seen Yankees Twitter. There's definitely a fiery reaction whenever he does anything.
Yes, and so Rick is one of those guys, and Aaron Boone intentionally walked Miguel Cabrera in his final at-bat of the game, and boy, oh boy, did it piss me off.
Everybody in Comerica Park, too, was in unison with you there.
Yeah, the boos started raining down. I saw a Tigers beat writer on Twitter say, I covered this team when they lost 117 games. I have never heard louder boos in Comerica Park than I did today. So I wanted to ask you, because it's been a while since we've talked, and we've talked a lot of baseball, but I feel like we haven't done a deep dive into baseball history much, really. We talk a lot about modern baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball history is where I sort of cut my teeth. That's what I love so much. And for Miguel Cabrera, for you, I mean, where are we talking all time here? I mean, this, for me, he's the second best right-handed hitter I've ever seen, probably number 2 or 3. It all depends on how I feel that day about Manny Ramirez, and then obviously Albert Pujols is there. But for me personally, he's just way up there in terms of right-handed hitters all time. I didn't know what your thoughts were on Miggy.
Yeah, I mean, Miggy's a legend. I was just listening to the Chris Rose podcast baseball today, just before this episode, actually. Mm-hmm. Great podcast. I love anything Chris Rose is involved with. And he was just, him and Plouffe were talking about how Miguel Cabrera not only is crushing the ball and has been doing so for so many years, but he's just so loose and he's having fun out there, and he's the kind of guy that knows what you're going to throw before you throw it to him. Mm-hmm. And just for his baseball instinct and what he brings to the clubhouse, what he brings to the people around him, it's just completely unique. And I was actually just pulling up Baseball Reference as well to look at his numbers the last couple of years. I mean, you've seen Albert Pujols, his production fell off a cliff when he went to the Angels. Mm-hmm. I know far too much about that. But with Miguel Cabrera, I mean, last few years, OPS 744, 746, 701. It's currently 779 this season. That's not that bad for his age.
No, the numbers are still respectable. They're not nearly what they were. Obviously, he's not going out and winning Triple Crowns and MVPs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But they are still respectable. I mean, if your OPS plus is in the 90s at this age, he just turned 39. This is age 39 season.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, I got to see if I can find it. Because I saw his baseball, or I can just get it up. His baseball savant page this year is really interesting. No, I'm sorry, that was Albert Pujols. No, I forgot. I'll bring that up later. But I found Albert Pujols' baseball savant page this year, and you would think it was 2007. It's actually unbelievable.
Really, I got to check this out. Baseball savant.
Albert Pujols. I can just get it up if my computer decides to load. But I did want to pull up Miggy's baseball reference. I mean, look at these numbers, man. We got 4 batting titles, 2 MVPs, led the league in home runs twice. He was an all-star at age 21. His first 1,000th and 2,000th hit were all home runs, which is a wild statistic to me.
Wow.
So if you just want to bet Miguel Cabrera to hit a home run every day for the next week, seems like 3,000 would be a good number to do it on too.
Certainly.
And he's one of those guys that just, who doesn't like Miguel Cabrera?
He's such a lovable guy. And especially on the Tigers team where, they've struggled for the last, 5-6 years? I'm not quite sure what the timeline is there, but
probably a good 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he is going to have a better season this year than he did the last 3. And I'm pretty confident about that. Cause this is the first Tigers team where they're fielding a competitive roster in years.
Oh yeah.
You got Torkelson at first base, Riley Green's when he's back from the IL. Mm-hmm. Austin Meadows has been really good this year for them. Jamer Candelario. I mean, they've got some pieces. So hopefully that lights a fire in him.
Viewers of this show know I'm very high on the Tigers this year. I think the Tigers are going to be good. I think they're going to be competing, if not a wild card team.
It's Central too. I mean, anything can happen in the Central.
Who knows what that division? I still the Guardians have looked great.
Yeah.
There's no chance it keeps up. That offense stinks.
After 3 and 4, once you get to Franmil, it takes a pretty hard dive down after that.
As much as I love Stephen Kwan and I picked him up in fantasy baseball and then he immediately fell off a cliff. But that division's really the bottom 4 teams in that division are going to be battling the entire year, because I think the White Sox are the only good team in that division, really good team in that division. By the way, I've got this. Look at these percentiles for Pujols.
That's a lot more red than I was expecting to see there.
The whiff percentage is, really good. The exit velocity is great. The XBA is great. The K percentage is great. The X slug is great.
He's not striking out either.
No.
The
barrel percentage isn't, but he's 42 years old in the last year of his career. The guy, there's something in the water in St. Louis, man.
I guess so.
I picked the Cardinals to win the division before the season just because I was like, it's Pujols' last year, it's Yadier Molina's last year, and it's Adam Wainwright's last year.
Is it Wainwright's last year for sure?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense if they kind of did a package retirement.
Yeah, they're all going to go out together.
Yeah.
Because he's releasing a country album at the end of the year. I don't know if you heard about that.
Seriously?
Yes. Adam Wainwright's releasing a country album.
Wow. I'll stream that. I'll stream that for sure. I think one thing with Albert this year that's made a huge difference is when he was on the Angels, he was facing right-handed pitching and left-handed pitching. And once it got to the end of his tenure there, he could not hit right-handed pitching. He was K'ing up, popping up. I mean, watching the games is pretty tough. But once he got to the Dodgers last year, his OPS shot up maybe 60, 70 points being in that platoon. And then St. Louis, they got Edmundo Sosa, Paul DeJong, Corey Dickerson. They've got a lot of bench type guys who they can put in there. So I think it's a good situation for him. There's not a lot of pressure.
No, there isn't. And it's kind of crazy to think about guys like Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera not having a lot of pressure on them in the lineup, but it's just that's what getting old is. Like, I feel very old now that these guys are like at the end of their careers. But yeah, Albert's just been a revelation in St. Louis, and I love that. When he hit a home run in Busch Stadium again, you would have thought that crowd just won. Like, you would have thought they just won the World Series. What the hell did my light just do?
That was a little spooky.
Yeah, it was spooky. That's been happening every once in a while. I have a smart bulb in this, but I don't have it set to be a smart bulb. It's just using it as a light bulb right now, and it does that every once in a while. I forgot what I was talking. Oh yeah, Albert Pujols. It's been great to watch him this year in St. Louis, and but I do have a question I want to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Is Rick asked me this with zero prep time a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Adam Wainwright's country album. So I'm going to ask you. You have to build a baseball supergroup. Drums, bass, guitar, frontman.
Wow. That's tricky. I haven't heard a lot of these guys sing or play any of those instruments.
Don't have to.
I was going off appearance here?
It could partially off appearance. The one I put together was my frontman was Bronson Arroyo.
Okay. Yeah, he plays a little acoustic too.
Yep. My bass player was Jake Peavy.
Okay. I can see it.
My drummer was Noah Syndergaard because he just looks like a drummer, rhythm, pitcher, all that good stuff.
For sure.
And my guitar player was Peter Gammons because he's actually a very good guitar player.
Really?
Yeah, he's like a blues guitar player. It's wild. So that was mine. Okay. And you don't, like I said, you don't have to, no musical talent has to be involved. But if you could build a group, who would you put together?
That is a fascinating question. I'm just kind of looking around here. I already know one that came to mind right off the bat. I would love to see Jazz Chisholm play a saxophone. So Jazz playing jazz. Is that too outside the box here? Or is that good?
Go for it. You can build whatever group you want.
I think you got to have a saxophone in any good band. So I'm having Jazz on the sax.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of where it gets tricky. I feel like there's some connection between being a catcher and being a drummer. So I might have. I'm kind of kicking around a couple names right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Yasmani Grandal on the drums. How about that?
Interesting. Very interesting.
Catcher and drums, I feel like it makes sense. Like it just links up.
Sitting, squatting, you're
exactly.
You're just sort of in the background. Not too many people pay attention to you, but you know how important you are.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Moving down the list, I mean, it's getting tricky here. I feel like Willie Adames would be a nice guitar player. That's just.
I could see that. I could see Willie playing the guitar a little bit.
And then the front man, I think you got to have somebody who's got some good hair, good beard, somebody who's like right in the front of it. So I like Bronson Arroyo, but I don't want to steal that from you. How about we have Dansby Swanson's your head man?
Oh, Dansby's a great pick.
Dansby's got the hair. He can flip. I mean, I'm probably putting him on electric too. So
yeah.
Let's say Dansby. We got Jazz on the sax. We got Grandal behind the dish on the drums. Then what was the other position I need to fit here?
You said guitar player, bass, whatever.
Bass. Let's put Giancarlo Stanton on bass. How about that?
Just the biggest bass player of all time.
Oh yeah.
There's no shirt.
Yeah, no shirts. This whole band is shirtless.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear. Yeah.
No, I like that group. That's a good group.
Actually, I have a slight alteration here.
Okay.
As much as I'd like to see Grandal on the drums, I'm going to go with Will Smith. I mean, because you got Will Smith in real life with the music kind of connection there. So let's say Will Smith is on the drums.
Bitch slap anyone who shit talks the band too.
Exactly. You got to have a line of defense for sure.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that. That's a good swap. Will Smith on the drums. All right. Yeah, I thought you would be a good person to ask. You're a fan of music. We have done podcasts in the past about music and things of that nature. One of my favorite jokes I've ever pulled is when we were doing the top 10 Chicago songs, and it was about, songs by the band Chicago, and I just listed songs that were about the city of Chicago. And I had Go Cubs Go on there, and you laughed very hard.
That was a good one. Well played. Very clever.
So I want to get back to this Miguel Cabrera thing.
Yeah.
And Aaron Boone intentionally walking him in his last at bat. What are you doing? This light's starting to piss me off.
I think it adds character to the podcast.
I think so too. I personally think it was the right move for Boone to walk him in that situation.
So if I'm not mistaken, it was first and third, yeah?
Yeah, I believe it was first and third. I don't remember because I was watching on Yes, and they got the base graphics all mixed up over the course of that.
Yeah.
So I believe it was first and third. Yeah, it was to load the bases, and then Austin Meadows was coming up after him. So you've got a lefty on the mound. You got first and third. It makes sense. But at the same time, you can't walk him in that situation, right? The guy's going for 3,000 hits. And I know Yankee fans are like, it's not Aaron Boone's job to make sure he gets 3,000 hits. Yeah, but come on. If anyone's earned the right to try to go for 3,000 one last time at home, it's Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah. I was telling you a little bit before the pod here, but I was kind of concerned because I thought this was the last time the Tigers were going to be at home for the next couple weeks, and that he would have to do on the road, because that would be a really lame way to end it. But I think they have a series in Minnesota right after this. I will check myself.
Yeah, I will check that right now. Detroit schedule. So they've got
Colorado.
Yeah, they've got 3 games against Colorado coming up.
Hey, as long as they're at home
tomorrow.
As long as they're at home and Miggy gets that 3,000th hit in front of that home crowd, I'm happy with it. As far as the strategy goes, I mean, you had a left-handed pitcher and you had Austin Meadows coming up. Austin Meadows, notoriously not great against left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
So I understand it from a strategic standpoint, but at the same time, with how well Austin Meadows has been hitting the ball recently, I'd rather pitch to Miggy than pitch to Austin Meadows in that situation.
I agree. I know Miggy's, but he's been playing well. He's hitting, going into today, he was hitting like 330. He's had a hot start to the season, had 3 hits yesterday, but I agree. I feel like I'd rather face a 39-year-old Miguel Cabrera than notorious Yankee killer Austin Meadows.
Oh, yeah. And he's got a little speed too. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if that makes that much of a factor in a game like this with the bases loaded, but Meadows is the kind of guy right now. If you're Detroit, you want him up to bat with the game on the line. Oh,
absolutely. And that's why they went and got him. They needed another outfielder, and he's proven to be that guy. I mean, Tampa Bay continues to confuse me, man.
They're doing some black magic over there, some mysterious baseball strategy. I don't know what's going on, but every year they get the results, so you can't knock it.
Speaking of teams I never understand, this is a team that for some reason we talk about every week on this goddamn show, the Colorado Rockies. I'm
just as puzzled as you are.
They signed Kyle Freeland to an extension. Kyle Freeland is not a good pitcher. He had 1 good year, and then every other year of his career has, quite frankly, been dog shit. I don't get it. I have never understood a single move the Rockies have ever made in the history of the franchise. I didn't get the Chris Bryant deal. I didn't get the Ryan McMahon deal. I don't get the Kyle Freeland deal. Do you have any idea what they're doing in Colorado?
So I'm just pulling up Kyle Freeland's baseball reference right here. Last 2 years, consistent 4.33 ERA in Coors. I know they've kind of figured out the Coors problems here for the pitchers, and they've had a decent staff for the last couple of years. But look, I was cool with the Chris Bryant signing. I don't think it made sense per se, but at the same time, it's a team that would have been fighting for 60 wins and now might be fighting for about 70. So, and maybe this year, if they keep it up, we're thinking 75, 80, but at the same time, I mean, whenever there's lower market teams or mid-market teams getting those free agents, I'm all for it. I don't want every free agent to go to the Dodgers.
Yeah. I
But
agree
at the
with
same
that.
time, oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I agree. I'm glad the Rangers signed multiple big free agents, and I do like to see things like that. It's just the Rockies didn't make any sort of sense. Like
Yeah,
it's not
you
like
even
they
look
were
at
going to be competitive.
you look at the moves, the ancillary moves they made right before signing Chris
Mm-hmm.
Bryant. They go get Alex Colomé, kind of a washed up relief
Mm-hmm.
pitcher, and then they signed Jose Iglesias, who was atrocious last year in the Angels. He did figure out something in Boston.
He
I
did.
know you're probably a little bit more sympathetic to him than I am, but
I love Jose Iglesias. I hated when he left Boston the first time. When we sent him to Detroit, I was pissed. Like
yeah,
I love that guy. I always wanted him to stay in Boston. I don't know why everyone's just like he's a terrible hitter because he hits like 280 every year. And I'm like, he's not a terrible. He doesn't hit for power, but he's still a decent hitter. You know,
yeah.
he had hit like 310, and people were like, "Oh man, this guy sucks." I mean, he hit 310. What do you
Yeah,
mean he sucks?
I think it's hard to make the argument he's a bad hitter. I mean, you can make the argument he might have a bad approach because I remember
Yeah, he
last year,
doesn't walk, but
3 pitches, that was like the max you're ever going to have him see in an at bat. Same thing with
mm-hmm.
David Fletcher, too. Um, but yeah, signing Jose Iglesias and Alex Colomé, those are moves that you make when you're just like one or two depth pieces away and have the big stars already. At that point for the Rockies, their core was just Blackman, Brendan Rodgers, Herman Marquez,
Mm-hmm.
not super like awe-inspiring guys. So I don't really know what Colorado's doing right now. I liked locking up Senzatella and Freeland just because free agent pitchers aren't going to sign in cores. You just have to re-sign your own guys or draft them.
Yep.
But at the same time, I mean, it's hard to see what their vision is, especially in that division when you have the Padres, the Dodgers, the Giants looking like juggernauts for the next couple years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see a way in for them. I think, if anything, Arizona is going to be competing for the division sooner than they will.
Yeah, I could see that. By the way, these are Jose Iglesias' career stats. He's a career 277 hitter. I know his OPS plus is 88. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a terrible hitter. If you can hit close to 280 in the major leagues, you're not a terrible hitter.
Yeah,
sure. He was hitting 330 when the Red Sox traded him. It was
painful. It was painful watching that, seeing him thrive like that. But also, I mean, at the same time, he seems like a good guy, so I'm glad he's doing well.
Yeah, I always loved him. One of those players I just have an irrational love for is Jose Iglesias. But yeah, I agree. I think the Diamondbacks do have a better chance to compete in the coming years than the Rockies because it's so hard for the Rockies to build anything. It's always been impossible to build something with that franchise. They make the World Series in 2007. Then they suck again for a few years. They make the wild card game in, what was that, 2015, 2016?
That sounds
against
right.
the Diamondbacks. Then they suck again for a few years. Like, that's just the way that franchise goes. So personally, I'm starting to think like maybe it just didn't work. I know they have a decent fan base, but it's so hard to build anything there that it's just like, I mean, why do we still have a team there if they're never going to be consistently competitive?
And it's clearly a managerial and front office issue as well, because you look at the situation with Trevor Story and John Gray last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got two guys who are semi-productive. I mean, Story struggled in that last season there, but before he was excellent. And John Gray, he throws hard.
The stuff's always been there for him. It's just the fact that he pitched for the Rockies.
Yeah, and then you let those guys walk in the 75-win season, and then you don't bring either of them back, and then you go get Chris Bryant. And then they ate $50 million off of Arenado's salary a couple of years ago. So it's like,
that's the thing, is the Rockies are like, what we need? We need a superstar third baseman that can come in here and hit 45 home runs and play good defense at third base. You traded that guy to the Cardinals. You had that guy.
You had it. Yeah.
You literally had it. And then you traded him, and then you signed Chris Bryant.
And then you signed the third baseman to play left field.
Yeah, and you signed him to play left field. And it doesn't make sense.
And I'm a big Ryan McMahon guy. I will say that off the bat. But I think that extension to him was like a great way to spend their money. But I don't know why they didn't just save their money that they could have used on Chris Bryant and gone another guy on like a 2-year deal, 3-year deal.
It's the Rockies, man. I will never understand a move they make.
Yeah.
And like I said, with the Freeland deal, I get it. You got to keep your guys because, like you said, no one will sign in Colorado. They've tried that in
That's
the
a
past.
death wish.
They gave Mike Hampton like $105 million. He was never that good, and they still gave him an insane contract. Then he went there, and he was awful. Like, people know what it's like to sign as a free agent in Colorado. They haven't had a consistently good pitcher since Ubaldo Jimenez, who was good for like 2.5 years.
I would maybe contest Marquez has reached that.
He's getting
status.
there, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
He's getting there. I'd like to see
definitely
a little more consistency out of Marquez, but it's just, I don't know, man.
They just seem like a perpetually fourth place team.
Yeah.
Even if the division wasn't as strong as it was right now, I mean, I think their ceiling would be third if the Giants fell back to earth and the Padres really felt that Tatis injury or anything like that.
I think third is like a lofty ceiling for them too. That's like they have to play their absolute best baseball, and everyone on the Giants or Padres gets hurt. And then it's like, oh yeah, the Rockies finished third because the Padres won 71 games.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get it. I do want to talk about another team in the West that I usually don't understand, and that's your beloved Los Angeles Angels.
Yep.
Of Anaheim.
Of Anaheim, yes.
Yes.
Got to do the full name.
So Trout is hurt again, correct?
Trout was hurt. It's just a day-to-day thing. He's going to be back on Friday. So
he's going to be back tomorrow? Okay. I know because he got hit by a pitch on the hand, right?
He did, and that was a hard video to watch. I mean, you could kind of see him, like, because of the light, he couldn't really see the ball, and he kind of leaned into it, hit him right on the wrist. I was at work when that happened, and I checked Twitter, and my heart dropped. And I just kept on scrolling to refresh it, and then finally I got the notification that it was negative on the testing and whatnot. So it's been a struggle for them to keep Ohtani, Rendon, and Trout in the lineup at the same time. Seems like they only have two of the three at any given time.
Now, the Angels are 8-5 so far, which they're off to a good start. Ohtani had
most runs in baseball, I believe, or most home runs in baseball.
I believe most home runs, yeah. Ohtani had a pretty rough start there in Texas. I was watching that one with my dad, and then he goes out there and faces the Astros, and he was perfect for a few innings. And
opening day, he was great. I think he went 5 1/3.
Yeah, he was great on opening day too. So do you think this could be actually like a decent year for the Angels? Like, I feel so bad for you as an Angels fan, man. Like, every single year I'm like, I hope the Angels are at least decent just so Noah has something to cheer for.
Yeah, that's it's been a struggle the last few years, I'm not gonna lie. Saying last few years is kind of understating it. They haven't had a playoff appearance since 2014, I believe. So we're almost reaching a decade point from the last time they had a really competitive team. There's been a few years they've gotten close, and they haven't quite got there. They tried to get Justin Upton at the deadline a few years ago, give him that extension, and then all of a sudden he's DFA'd.
Yep.
I am liking what I see though. What was that?
I didn't get the Justin Upton DFA either. Like,
yeah,
he can still hit.
He can hit a little bit.
He's not nearly what he used to be, but he's a power bench bat, and a lot of teams could use that.
I think the big reason why they made that move is Taylor Ward. I don't know if you've heard anything about him recently, but Joe Maddon's shown a lot of favor with him. He even said to the media that is having Taylor Ward as their everyday right fielder, which kind of leaves Joe Adell and Brandon Marsh in their own platoon in left field, which was really surprising to me because in my eyes, Ward is more of a fourth outfielder type than a starting, like he's your guy. He'll be in the lineup every day. But I'm feeling pretty good about the Angels this year. I know that's hopefully that optimism doesn't backfire on me. The last few years, I have been a very pessimistic, jaded Angels fan, and I immediately will go for the under whenever anybody puts their projections out for them, or I'll say like, there's no way the pitching stays together. But this is the first year since maybe 2014, 2015, where I think the Angels have like multiple top of the rotation arms. And I think that depth is definitely going to be stretched out. And I am not very confident in what they have out there in Salt Lake. to fill in if somebody gets hurt. But Ohtani, Syndergaard, and Sandoval have all proven to be excellent pitchers. Also, big strikeout guys. I mean, this is like an opportunity for them if they make the playoffs. If you have Ohtani, Syndergaard, and Sandoval healthy for a series, I mean, you could start to compete with some of these bigger juggernaut teams in the AL. But I think the big question is if Detmers takes that step, and if somebody gets hurt, then Jansen Junk's your sixth starter. Great name, not a great pitcher.
Yeah. It's interesting because realistically, we can expect, if he stays healthy, 150 innings out of Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. I think he pitched 130 last year.
Yeah. And so anywhere between 130 and 150, that's like the top. You know, you're not going to get more than that. Noah Syndergaard, as great as Thor has been in recent years, is still a big question mark. You know, this is a guy that hasn't pitched in 2 years. It's and he looked great in his first start. Him and Verlander were dueling it out, and it was great to see him. The stuff looked good, and he looked good in that Angels uniform. But it's just
Greek god.
I don't know, man. The Angels always confuse me because it's always the pitching. It's always been the pitching. It will always be the pitching. It's that lineup has been so good in recent years. You know, at least like on paper. You and I are the two biggest David Fletcher fans on the planet.
I actually have an announcement. I am falling off the David Fletcher hype.
No.
I'm on the Tyler Wade train right now. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Tyler Wade. I think he's a bit of a reckless base runner. I will put that out there. Very reckless. He's gotten thrown out like 4 times already this year.
Yeah.
But he just has this energy and the ability to hit the ball the other way and drive it a little bit more, which Fletcher hasn't been able to. I think it's a hip issue actually that he's had the last year or so. So I would love to see Fletch get back. I love Fletch's persona. I mean, he's just like the most like NPC baseball player you've ever seen. Just slaps the ball down the line. But once they started shifting, he got figured out a little bit. I hope he reinvents his game a little bit.
By the way, the fact that the Angels have Taylor Ward and Tyler Wade on the roster,
it's causing a lot of headaches.
That bothers me. Like you said, Taylor Ward, and I immediately thought Tyler Wade. Then I was like, oh no, wait, he's an infielder. Taylor Ward's the outfield. It's a pain in the ass.
It's going to be hard on lineup cards and for the beat writers this year, 100%.
But yeah, in the AL West is a really interesting division too. Like I'm very high on the Mariners.
I'm very low on Texas.
Yeah, I don't think Texas is very good.
Yeah, I mean, with Martin Perez is here too.
Yeah, and they've proven they kind of stink. The lineup is great, obviously, but that pitching staff is atrocious. I'm very high on the Mariners. There's no way the A's keep up what they're doing. That roster is stinky.
Seth Brown can't be hitting third in a playoff game.
No,
it won't happen.
And I'm not very high on the Astros this year. I think I'll probably be proven wrong. But going into the year, I was just like, I don't think they can keep doing this, man. Altuve is another year older. The pitching behind Verlander is still very unproven.
Yeah, I would contest Framber's kind of established himself as a front of the line pitcher. But I mean, there's some guys on the bottom end that need to, put a couple more productive years out there.
And it was a big thing for me when McCullers got hurt, because that was the thing where I was just like, that scares me a little bit with that pitching staff. Yeah. As much as I like Ryan Presley, the bullpen is very like a bunch of nobodies.
I was watching the Angels series a bit against the Astros. I mean, the first series Astros took 3 games, Angels took 1. It was they were clearly outmatched, but they went to they were in Houston this past series, and the Angels took 2 or 3. And in that series, I mean, the Angels were not only winning games, but they were beating them pretty soundly. And
they were the better team for sure.
They looked like a lot better of a team. And I think the Angels kind of had that like rough start. You could tell a lot of their play was really sloppy. But once they got deeper into this, I guess, second week of baseball, that bullpen has been a massive, massive improvement for them. They have Tepera, Iglesias, and Loop right now, and all three of those guys have looked top notch. And I think that might be the Angels' opportunity to make waves in the division, is if they can get 5 or 6 out of their starting pitchers and then pass it off to the big three. I'm calling it a big three, even though they've only been together for 10 days.
No, they're good, man. All three of those guys are good.
That gives them a shot. And if Houston regresses, I mean, it'll be Seattle and Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim competing for that spot, filling the vacuum.
Man, when the Angels re-signed Raisel Iglesias, I was so pissed. I wanted him so bad in Boston. He was like the one thing I wanted. I was like, just give me Raisel Iglesias and I'll be happy.
And he's got that fiery attitude on the mound too. That would be perfect for Boston.
Oh, they would have loved him. And I've been a big fan of his since he came up with Cincinnati. I was like, because I sort of saw it early. I was like, I don't know if this guy's going to be a great starter because he came up as a starter, but I loved the idea of using him in the bullpen, and he's turned into a lockdown closer. But hey, what do I know? Goddamn Red Sox. I was talking.
It's okay. You guys have Matt Barnes. Don't worry about
it. Buddy, I got my haircut today. I got my first haircut in 10 months today. My hair was an absolute mess. And I was talking to my barber about it, and he's a big Yankee fan. He was like, what were your thoughts on like the Yankees offseason and the Red Sox offseason? And when I started talking about the Reds, like I didn't even want him to sign Trevor Story. I don't even really like that deal. Like, I think it
seems like a way for Xander to bow out.
It's a lot of money that we gave a guy that only hit well in Coors Field and was not good on the road. Yeah. And it was a way for Xander to leave. But I'm just like, we could have just given it to Xander or Devers. Devers is number one. Give it to Raffy first, and if we can keep Bogarts, fine. And it just creates a roadblock for the 5 top prospects we have that play the infield. Yep. They're all infielders.
Marcelo Meyer, is he projected to be a shortstop or second baseman?
Who knows at this point, because they don't know what the big club is going to do with their infield. We've got Bobby Dahlbeck can play, theoretically play first, third, even a little bit of second. Jeter Downs is a shortstop, second baseman. Marcelo Meyer, shortstop, second baseman. Nick York, second baseman. Tristan Cassis, first baseman, third baseman. They're all infielders. We're going to have to move 2 of these guys to the outfield if we keep Devers. Like,
and if Story struggles, I mean, then you got an albatross contract while you're trying to bring back your core.
Yeah.
So
I hated that deal. And then they signed Jake Diekman and Matt Strahm. I like Diekman.
I like
He's a
Diekman.
solid piece.
Yeah.
Matt Strahm, I think, stinks. He's been really good so far for the Red Sox, so I might be eating crow by the end of the season. I hated that signing. I think he's awful. But it just...
And that hair just belongs in San Diego.
It does. He just looks like a Padre. He looked so right in a Padres uniform. It wasn't.
I feel like I'd walk into like a beachside cafe in San Diego and just see him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've probably seen it. You're out there in California. You've probably seen him just chilling out, on the beach one of these days.
Exactly. There's like a golden aura around him, Keep bringing it back to San Diego.
I guess we can bring up, there was a trade. The Braves traded Sean Newcomb to the Cubs for Jesse Chavez.
Yeah. Sean Newcomb, part of the Simmons trade.
Yeah. Like former Angels prospect.
Yeah. I'm surprised how much he fell off. I mean, he looked great the first couple of years in Atlanta, and then he moved over to the bullpen, and he just hasn't been able to figure out since. I think it's interesting.
Healthy too. That's what always surprised me. He's always had that big curveball.
And big lefties are hard to come by. I mean, it's not like those guys are just growing off trees. But at the same time, it makes sense. I think he was also embroiled in some controversy a couple of years ago. I guess he had some unsavory tweets get pulled up from the deep depths of the internet.
I don't remember that.
Maybe a change of scenery is the way to go. I think he had some like racist or anti-Semitic tweets.
Oh, it's like the Red Sox prospect from a couple months ago. You see that one?
That was, wow. I haven't seen anything that forward.
No,
as far as the tweets go. Usually the tweets are just,
hey, you shouldn't have said that.
You definitely shouldn't have said that. This one, it was like, how did you even think that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This guy, I don't remember your name, but I remember we like read some of the tweets on the show because we were just making fun of him for being an idiot, basically.
Yep.
And Rick is Jewish, so when he saw the anti-Semitic ones, he was like, "I'm gonna talk about these for a few minutes."
Yeah,
that was
pretty rough.
Yeah, that guy was brutal. But I didn't know that about Newcomb. But I think he could. I think
it was
he could
actually right after the Hader news. I think it was the same week.
I forgot about the Josh Hader one too. They released those during the All-Star game. That was wild. He was pitching in the All-Star game, and everyone was like, "Remember when Josh Hader said the N-word?" And everyone, what?
Yeah, and then once he got back to the dugout, I saw one of the coaches was talking to him, and it's like, man, you got to delete your search history or your anything digital when you just like become a pro athlete, or just don't say that in the first place. That'd probably be the best.
Don't
solution.
say it in the first place. That's the big thing. But also,
you could always just not type send.
Yeah. Also, at the same time, if like, I remember when I got to college, I went through my Twitter and I was like, is there anything borderline questionable on here?
Yeah, that's a good call.
Deleted all of it. If anyone has screenshots, I will find you.
I will find you and I'll dox you.
Yeah, I'll dox anybody, pal. Something funny that I heard about, and I'm just now reading the story. They had to evacuate the U.S. Capitol because the Washington Nationals didn't tell anybody that they were having parachuters come into the stadium before the game.
Wow. That's the most interesting Nationals related story you'll hear this year, probably too.
Yeah.
Besides Soto hitting one like 500 feet,
Yeah, until Soto hits his 78th home run, and it's just like,
Nelson Cruz being traded to the Twins again or something.
Yeah, exactly. That wouldn't surprise me at all. The Twins are just like, bring him back. But yeah, so that's absolutely hilarious. How do you not tell? Like, you were in the capital of the United States with some of the highest security in the country, and you just don't tell them that you're going to have people jumping out of planes?
I think the last 2 years have shown us that Washington, D.C. might need to update their security a little bit. Just a little bit.
Especially in that one specific building.
Yeah, what building was it? Anyways.
But that's what they had to evacuate the Capitol building. Yep. So it was another
not a good year for the Capitol. Not a good year for the Capitol.
Thing about Nelson Cruz. Just thought of this because we've talked in the past before, and when we were both writing for that website, I wrote a very extensive piece on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. It's still one of the best things I've ever written. And I've said it on here, I'm a big Hall of Fame guy. I love the Hall of Fame. It's one of my it's probably my favorite part about baseball is the Hall of Fame and the discussion around it.
You're definitely the most knowledgeable person on the Hall of Fame that I know.
Thank you. I take pride in my knowledge of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Is Nelson Cruz a Hall of Famer to you?
Oh yeah.
I will say he did serve a drug suspension.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah. That is, if you're not going to put Barry Bonds in there, it's a bit of a hard sell to get Nelson Cruz in there. Mm-hmm. At the same time, though, I just love Nelson Cruz so much. Like I'm pretty against the idea of PEDs. Of course, I used to be very against it. I was like, if you take PEDs, you're dead to me. Mm-hmm. But Nelson Cruz is just such a lovable guy, and the fact that he's crushing balls at like 42 or 43.
He hit a bomb today.
That's right on cue. I'm just a big Nelson Cruz guy. He has my vote. I think he's a Hall of Famer in the sense that he has the numbers to back it up. But I do think he would have a lot of difficulty actually being put in because of the PED suspension.
So Nelson Cruz throws a wrench in my entire ideology behind my fictional Hall of Fame ballot that I do every year.
Okay, let's hear it.
My entire thing was, if you fail a drug test, I will not vote for you. Like, if you serve a suspension and fail a test, I won't vote for you. I don't think I can stop myself from voting for Nelson Cruz.
He's so cool.
Well, it's not even that. He failed his drug test, served a 50-game suspension, and then got better.
Yeah.
Like, that's what throws a wrench in it.
That's a great point. Yeah.
It's like he failed it in Texas, and then served his suspension. He goes to Baltimore and hits 40 home runs like 6 years in a row and doesn't fail another drug test.
Yeah.
It throws a wrench in my entire ideology. Like, I've always been Bonds is in, Clemens is in, Sheffield is in. All those guys let him in. We have no proof. It's all hearsay, whatever. Obviously, we all know that they did it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, they didn't get punished for it, so I say let him in.
And I'm looking at the numbers here. Nelson Cruz set career highs in homers, RBIs, and OPS after his suspension.
Mm-hmm.
So he, like you said, he got better. So it showed that the PEDs weren't a crutch. If anything, his numbers just got better across the board, especially if you're looking at his OPS plus the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I mean, it went down last year. But just this stretch, like...
I mean, those are Miguel Cabrera type numbers right there for that stretch of years.
That's 8 years, 292 home runs, 283 average, 147 OPS plus. Like, that's a stretch of that's a first ballot sort of stretch.
Yeah.
36 home runs per season, 44 per 162. I mean, this is a guy that should be a no doubt Hall of Famer, and I don't know if he gets in.
And it's talking about approach at the plate too. I mean, he's averaging 54 walks a season, 8 hit by pitches. And this is a guy who is not only hitting the ever-loving crap out of the ball, but he's also going up there and striking fear into the opponent's heart, getting on base.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great player.
It's just, I wanted to ask your opinion on that because it just, I think
it goes
about
against
it
my
way
ideologies,
too often.
But I have to. It's Nelson Cruz. It's Nelson Cruz.
Speaking of which, I saw a thing earlier, so we can bring this up. I saw it on Twitter. It was, who right now do you think is a no doubt Hall of Famer that's currently active? I mean, so the list was Kershaw, Trout, Verlander, Miggy, Pujols,
Scherzer, probably.
Scherzer, and Votto was the list.
Mm-hmm.
I personally agree with all those. I don't think Votto's a no doubt Hall of Famer just because the voters scare me. I think he's a surefire first ballot sort of guy. 300, 400, 500 slash line, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. He won an MVP. I know the power numbers aren't there for what we like to see out of a first baseman. I think that's a load of bullshit. Put Don Mattingly and Keith Hernandez in the Hall of Fame too. I don't care that they didn't hit for a ton of power. They were great players.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that you would put on that list?
I was just thinking about that. I think one of the interesting cases might be a guy like Anthony Rizzo. I mean, this is a guy who's put up fantastic numbers throughout his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
Do you put a guy like him in, or does he not meet the criteria?
Let's look at these numbers. So it's been 11 years, 10 years really. Because we don't count the one season he played 49 games in San Diego. So let's just do a little of this. That's close.
It's close.
That's close. I probably would say he falls a little short.
Yeah.
Dan, how many Gold Gloves did he win in that span? Where's my?
That's one of the biggest factors I was thinking. I mean, Anthony Rizzo was a guy who was consistently in the conversation for best first baseman in the game.
Yeah.
Well, he's in Chicago, and defensively, he's easily one of the best.
Yeah, 4 Gold Gloves. What's his career WAR?
And I'm going to go ahead and give Buster Posey a shout out as well.
Well, yeah, Buster Posey. Like I said, this is just active, and he is retired.
Oh,
now.
Yeah. He is. That's a good point.
But, Buster Posey is... I will sing the praises of Buster Posey until the day I die. And if he doesn't get first ballot Hall of Fame, then the voters don't know anything about baseball.
And when was the last time somebody put up nearly a 900 OPS in their last MLB season?
Yeah,
I mean,
Buster was great.
He went out with a bang.
Mm-hmm. My dad's a big Giants fan, so obviously if it wasn't going to be the Red Sox, I wanted the Giants to win the World Series. And the night that Buster Posey retired, my dad was just a mess. He was like, "This sucks. I hate this." Who
cares about your family can play baseball for another few years for us.
Exactly. He tried to book hotel rooms in Cooperstown for 5 years from now. They wouldn't let him, but he was like, "Oh no, I'm going to see Buster Posey get inducted."
Also, how about Chase Utley? Big Chase Utley guy.
I'm a big Chase Utley guy. I don't think there's a chance he sniffs the hall because Jeff Kent isn't in. That's
a good point.
If Kent was in, which he should be, he's got the most home runs by a second baseman ever. If Kent was in, I think Chase Utley had a better shot. But if Kent doesn't get in, then Utley's not going to get in, especially because there's a large amount of the population that the name Chase Utley leaves a bad taste in their mouth for him destroying Ruben Tejada.
Whether it be a slide or a home run against them late in the game. Selfishly, there's one guy I would love to see in the Hall of Fame. I know he's not going to make it, but I absolutely love Adam Jones, and he's retired. Jonesy. But I mean, that's a guy I was just looking at.
He's not retired.
Is he not retired?
He plays in Japan.
Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah.
That's awesome that he's playing in Japan. That's so much fun.
He loves it. He's like fluent in Japanese now and everything too. Like he's
like a guy I just love to hang out with. Torrey Hunter, Torrey Hunter or Adam Jones, if you're watching this right now, I just want to hang out with you guys.
Yes, I agree. That picture I'm pointing at, I hate this inverted camera. That picture I'm pointing at right there above my bed, the one in the middle, is a picture of him robbing the home run in the World Baseball Classic against Manny Machado, and underneath it is a signed Adam Jones baseball card. Adam Jones is one of my favorite players. Yeah. Because he was so cool. Adam Jones is so cool.
His swag was off the charts, and especially with like chewing the bubble gum.
That's the thing. Just blowing a bubble as you're catching a pop fly. My dad and I saw him drop one once. It was the funniest thing. The bubble got in his eyes. He dropped the fly ball. It was hilarious, but he played it off like a champ.
Yeah.
And I love Adam Jones. Yeah, he wouldn't get in, but I do love him. And same with Torrey Hunter, like you said. T. Hunt was just so much fun to watch.
I wanted him to manage the Angels so bad before they signed Madden. But
do you like Madden as the manager of the Angels?
I was actually going to bring that up.
I meant
because we had that intentional walk. Yeah, a couple.
I couldn't believe it's Corey Seager. Barry Bonds is the only person in the history of baseball that deserved that.
Yeah. I think Josh Hamilton was the last guy to do it, but that was in 2008. And it was a Madden move as well.
It was 2010. It was the year he won MVP. And it was the Rays that walked him. It was Joe Madden has done that twice. There have been 3 intentional walks with the bases loaded in the history of baseball, and Joe Madden has 2 of them.
Well, at least he won something, right? He hasn't won a lot in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
I have very polarizing thoughts on Joe Madden because on one hand, I think he's a fun manager. I would love to have him as a bench coach.
He'd be a fantastic
phenomenal bench coach. Mm-hmm. But as a manager, I think society has moved past the need for Joe Madden. And we may have just had to leave him in 2010 because he was great at the time for baseball. And I think when you see him today, he's done a better job managing this year besides that little blip. Because I remember last year he was like, he just loved Steve Cishek and just put him in every single situation he could. And then he would bat Phil Gosselin third in the lineup instead of bumping up one of the young guys.
But hey, Matt Duffy was your opening day cleanup hitter, so he's still doing that shit.
Matt Duffy's slapping the ball around a little bit though.
He's not a cleanup hitter on opening day. I'll tell you that much.
He is not. That's
when you have Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, and Anthony Rendon, and Jared Walsh and Brandon Marsh and Joe Adele. When all those guys are in a lineup, you don't hit Matt Duffy cleanup.
Yeah, there was a lot of different avenues they could have gone there for sure. But yeah, Madden, I mean, is he smart or does he just wear glasses? The greatest debate of all time.
That's a great question.
I lean towards Madden was a great manager, and then now he's an okay manager. And I think if you're a team like the Angels where you're kind of there's no surefire way that you're going to win the division. I mean, you kind of have to like have a lot of things go right and a lot of things go wrong in Houston and Seattle. So I think you need a guy who's exceptional, like an Alex Cora type. And Madden's not that right now. What do you think?
I think it's amazing how quickly you can go from being ahead of the curve to behind it.
Yeah.
Because he was the mad scientist. Joe Madden is a huge reason baseball is what it is today. In terms of all the analytics and lineup construction. He's the reason I think Aaron Boone is a bad manager.
Yeah.
And now it's just like he hit Matt Duffy clean up on opening day and he intentionally walked Corey Seager with the bases loaded. Yeah. Like, that's not being ahead of the curve. That's poor managing.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a disdain for analytics that I've heard from like quotes from him. He was talking about the walk and said he was not thinking about analytics whatsoever. He was only thinking about the human element. And like, by all means, the human element matters, but you need a little bit of analytics if you're going to go with the human element. If anything, I'd go full analytics before I go partial analytics, part full human, you know? But he said he was trying to fire the team up. Being down 4-0 instead of being down 3-0 is not going to fire the team up.
I mean, I'm assuming you saw Trout's reaction in center field when he was just like,
there's a lot of wheels turning.
He was like, there's a runner on first, there's a runner on second, there's a runner on third. They're all moving. It was like the Zach Galifianakis gif with all the numbers going around his head when he was counting cards in The Hangover. Yep. It's just, but the thing is, he was the analytics guy first.
Yeah.
That was the thing. It was Joe Madden uses the numbers and he builds lineups based on them. And then now he's just like, fuck them.
Yeah, and he's one of the more like strategically conservative managers in the MLB. He doesn't take a lot of those risks anymore.
No.
Even look at his lineups when he was in Tampa Bay. He was batting Carlos Pena leadoff, I believe.
Yeah, he did that every once in a while.
Switching things up. Ohtani's been their leadoff guy this year. They've kind of stuck with the same lineups for like the most part. They're just playing basic platoons, and it's been pretty good for them this season. But that's more of a success story on the players than I think it is the managing.
Yeah, I did want to get your perspective on him because I think it's amazing how quickly the game can pass someone by, especially the guy that was dubbed the mad scientist.
Yeah,
like that. Everyone, that's what they called him. They said, "Oh man, this guy's so, he's so analytical. He's so, he
progressive.
He's so progressive." Yeah. And now he's just another old guy managing a baseball team. That's the type of shit I expect to see from Tony La Russa, not Joe Madden.
Yeah, I would love to see I'd love to see Joe Madden manage a team like the White Sox instead of La Russa, but I wouldn't like. I would have much preferred if the Angels went and got a young manager, somebody who could kind of like fire the team up a little bit more. Maybe even Torrey Hunter, like we were talking, he was in consideration to manage the team.
How about is there anyone else that once Madden is gone? I'm assuming he doesn't have more than a couple years left.
If they had finished under 500 this year, he is so gone.
Yeah. Is there anyone maybe like you've heard that's potentially waiting in the wings, or another manager that could move on to the Angels that you're interested in?
You know what? That's a tricky one. Like I mentioned a second ago, I think Torrey Hunter would be great. I think he's young enough. He understands the game. Players love him. He did get a little screwed over with the Albert Pujols situation, so I'm not anticipating that. That's just kind of like my dream scenario. I don't know. I think they would maybe be better off going with somebody who's less established, somebody who's younger and has like more of a analytical perspective on things. Perry Minasian, the general manager, seems like he's a little bit more willing to dive into analytics and whatnot. So I hope maybe he brings somebody from Atlanta in one of the executive positions, brings him in. It's hard to tell. I just think after Brad Osmus, Joe Madden's better, but it's not.
It doesn't get much worse
better
than Brad
enough.
Osmus.
Yeah, and I kind of miss. I was kind of hoping Gabe Kapler would come along. Gabe Kapler is doing a fantastic job in San Francisco.
Yeah,
which
he's doing
really
a great
surprised
job.
me.
Me too. I thought he sucked in Philadelphia.
I thought he was just the most good-looking manager, and that he didn't have any analytical bones in his body. But he's done a great job with the platoons and pushing the envelope a little bit there.
Yeah, when he was in Philly, I was like, this guy stinks. What the Giants hired him? Why? Farhan Zaidi's been doing such a great job. Why'd they hire Gabe Kapler? And I was wrong. The guy won Manager of the Year, and they won 107 games last year.
That's ridiculous. I still can't wrap my head around the fact that they won 107.
Mm-hmm. They, I believe it was the most in baseball since the Mariners, if I remember correctly.
Might have been.
Yeah.
Definitely the most in the last 5 years.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I think it was the most in baseball since the Mariners won. What was it, 116? Yeah, 116.
I have a question for you.
Yeah,
as far as records go. So the Giants won 107 last year, and then the Dodgers this year, they got Freddie Freeman batting in the middle of the lineup. Mookie Betts seems healthier. Max Muncy's fine. What do you think they could beat that 107 number, or do you think it's going to be too competitive in that division for anybody to pass 100?
I think they could. I do legitimately think the Dodgers have a chance just because of how many times they play the Rockies and Diamondbacks.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And
if the Rockies keep stealing wins, though, maybe it'll be a little closer.
Yeah, maybe the Rockies, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, and they are actually this, halfway decent competitive team like they've shown to be in the early going, but I don't see that happening. I think they could make a run at 110. That team is scary, man. Just talk about there's 4 MVPs on the roster.
Yep.
4. Cody Bellinger learned how to hit again. That's the scariest part. I projected them to win around 110 games when I thought Cody Bellinger stunk, and he doesn't stink anymore.
And Will Smith might be one of the best catchers in the MLB. I mean, he already is a top 10 guy. He could be a top 5, top 3 guy by the end of the year.
I think he is a top 5 guy. There isn't a weakness.
I have one caveat here.
Weakness. What is it?
I do love the Dodgers. I think they're a fantastic team. I'm actually, even though I'm an Angels fan, I'm wearing a Dodgers LA Champs shirt now. I think they're a great team, but I think if we're talking about the competitiveness of the division, I think the Giants, even though they lost Posey, their pitching got a lot better, and they're going to be in a pretty good position this year.
Oh, they're still going to be good, man.
And the Padres fell off hard last year as well. So if you think the Padres, I mean, if they could get up to 80, 90 wins, then there's going to be less wins within that division because the Giants really beat on the Padres later in the year, and that's how they got to 107. So if the Padres are really good, maybe you look at the division and you say, okay, Dodgers maybe win like 98 and then go into the playoffs as the top dog.
The Padres scare me.
In a good way or bad way?
In a bad way.
How so?
Tatis has got to learn to stay healthy.
No more motorcycles.
That's the thing. It's not like, he tore a hamstring, he's out for a few months. No, he gets hurt because of recklessness.
Yeah.
He needs to rein that in because that team needs him so much. The pitching, the names are great.
The names are so great. It looks like it was like they did forced trades and MLB The Show.
Yeah, the names are great. Yu Darvish, I don't know what he is anymore.
I don't know what Blake Snell is anymore either.
I don't know what Blake Snell is. I mean,
he's only been going 5-6 max in his starts.
Max.
Almost like 4 a couple.
And he's hurt again. Because, of course, Blake Snell lands on the injured list before May 1st.
Death, taxes, and Blake Snell getting hurt.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about that last week. You've got Mackenzie Gore up now, and that's great. But he's a rookie with a history of arm injuries. Joe Musgrove is the most consistently good pitcher on that staff. And I'm a big Joe Musgrove guy.
I'm a big Musgrove guy, too.
I'm very high on him. Is he a legitimate ace? Not really.
More of a 2, I'd say.
He's a very, very good 2, a low-end 1. And he needs to be their ace.
And how about Clev, too?
And we don't know what we're going to get out of Clevenger. As great as Clevenger was in Cleveland, we don't know what it's going to be. He had Tommy John surgery. So it's like, what kind of Mike Clevenger are we getting back? The offense is good. Manny Machado's a stud. Fernando Tatis is a stud.
I hope Grisham bounces back a little bit, too.
Maybe I don't know if Grisham's actually that good. I am a big Jake Cronenworth guy. So I like Cron in that lineup. It's just, I think they're an 85-win team. I think all that builds to be an 85-win team. And it sucks because the expectations are so high and you've got a superstar in Fernando Tatis Jr. Mm-hmm. But unless he can really tone it back, he needs to take the same medicine that Bryce Harper took early in his career. Mm-hmm. Bryce Harper was getting herpes. He was crashing into walls and he was stealing bases and he's taking guys out at second
choking
base.
Out Jonathan Papelbon. Or did he get choked out himself?
No, he got choked out.
Oh, okay.
But he's fighting Jonathan Papelbon in the dugout. And then it was like, hey, Bryce, slow down, pal.
Here's $330 million. Just relax.
And Bryce learned that lesson, and all of a sudden he became a lot more durable. And Tatis needs to learn the same lesson. And it doesn't start with when someone asks you about your motorcycle, when your motorcycle accident was, and you respond saying which one.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign. And it also scares me because I don't want another fucking Jose Fernandez on our hands where it's like a guy was reckless and it caused an even greater tragedy than just his career being wasted. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things scare me about the Padres, and I think they can be a very good team.
Guy.
He's a very impulsive guy. He might go out and he could
go trade all his prospects for an arm, and then your farm system depleted, then you just redo it again.
Mm-hmm. He could trade Mackenzie Gore for he could try to put together a package for Jacob deGrom at the deadline. Then deGrom throws 4 innings and he throws out his shoulder again. And it's like, okay, well, that's the type of thing that AJ Preller might do. And I think he's a really good GM. I think he's done a really good job building that team. It just hasn't worked out. Mm-hmm. And like I said, on paper, that team should win 100 games. But paper doesn't win baseball games.
Yep. You're telling me. I've seen a fair share of papers not going according to plan.
You had Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, and Josh Hamilton hitting back to back to back. What happened, Noah?
Don't remind me. Don't remind me.
Then one of those guys beat the shit out of his daughter because he's an asshole.
Yeah. Also fun fact about the Padres. Oh, sorry to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
Jake Arrieta started 3 games for them last year.
Yes,
how crazy is that?
I'm glad you brought that up because I completely forgot that Jake Arrieta retired. The most dominant stretch of baseball I've ever seen was the last 20 starts of his 2015 season.
Phenomenal beard too.
Oh, phenomenal beard. All the well wishes in the world to Jake Arrieta in his retirement.
He's going to go fishing every day now. Good for him.
But he was unhittable. His last 20 starts of 2015, I looked this up the other day. He had a .84 ERA.
And how many starts?
20.
20.
It was 140 some odd innings.
Wow.
And he had a .8 ERA.
That's ridiculous.
He was unhittable.
And you talk about the power of a beard. I mean, when he was in Baltimore, clean shaven, nothing. He goes to Chicago, grows it out. There's a couple bugs in there. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's well maintained. I'm just saying it's a marvel. And his ERA just plummets.
Yeah.
Over into the 1s and the 2s. It was a great stretch of baseball to watch, especially. I mean, 2015 was just ridiculous.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I said, the last 20 starts. I'll pull it up. The guy was. For my money,
36 strikeouts.
Yeah. For my money, it's probably the most dominant stretch of pitching in baseball history because I've never seen a stretch like that.
Yeah, I mean, talking innings, 140 innings of sustaining that level of success.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty incredible.
Here it is. So it starts with his no-hitter in 2015 on June 21st. I will zoom in on this a little bit if I can. And 147 innings, .86 ERA, 147 strikeouts. The team went 18-2. He had 4 complete games in 20 starts.
Oh my gosh.
That's
insane.
147 strikeouts to 27 walks. I mean, all of this. Opponent's OPS 410. Just everything about it was so unbelievably impressive. And
like you look at his FIP 1.94, it's not like he's just got lucky.
No, he was that dominant. And like I said, all the best to him in his future. I hope he becomes a pitching coach someday, just because I think he looks great in a baseball uniform. He's one of those guys where it's just like that's a baseball player.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not like who was I just talking about? There's someone I recently said looked like a baseball fan at a game. It was a player, and I was like, he doesn't look like a baseball player. He looks like a fan who walked onto the field. And I can't remember who it was.
I'm sure there'll be a follow-up tweet if that comes back to your
yeah,
memory.
if it comes back to me, I'll tweet it out, because I meant to tweet it out in the moment and I didn't. I just like said it to somebody and they were like, "That's funny. You should tweet that." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll tweet it later." And I didn't tweet it later.
Oh, brutal. Brutal.
Was there anything else you want to bring up, my friend? I think that just about covers it.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to circle back to the Padres for a second. I think this is one of the teams with a very low, I won't say very low ceiling, a somewhat low ceiling, but a very high floor. Mm-hmm. I can't see this Padres team losing as many games as they did last year. I think you're going to see them win at least 80. I think your floor is 80 and your ceiling's 90. But I don't think this team has the potential to go win anything above 90 or even 100. Mm-hmm. Especially if Tatis isn't back in a quick manner, because right now CJ Abrams hasn't really been up to snuff yet. If CJ Abrams goes out there and has a Tatis like rookie year, then maybe you feel that a little bit less. But I mean, Tatis also just brings like a swagger and like just like it gives. He's the face of San Diego. You watch him play and you're like, that is the Padres right there. And you need to have a guy like that, especially if you're going to go make a deep run in the playoffs. So I have them making the playoffs this year, but I mean, the Giants, even though they lost Posey and some of their guys are getting older, they're still looking fantastic. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to leapfrog them.
You did just remind me, there was one last thing I wanted to bring up. Mm-hmm. It was Jerry Remy Day in Boston yesterday. They were celebrating the life of longtime broadcaster, former Red Sox infielder Jerry Remy. One of the reasons I wanted to get into broadcasting, I love Jerry Remy with all my heart. And Carly Yastrzemski was there, Dwight Evans, Fred Lynn. They had like the entire 75 team there almost. It was fantastic. They got shellacked by the Blue Jays, but we're going to ignore that.
Yeah, that's just additional information.
But what they didn't have was a message from Don Orsillo, who was Remy's broadcast partner on NESN for 15 years.
That was such an odd situation.
And so apparently they asked him to be there. He said, "I can't. I have to work. I do work for a different I broadcast a different team's games now. I'll be in San Diego." And so he's offered to record a video, and he wrote a very, very nice message.
Very heartfelt.
About Remy and his family and what he meant to the Red Sox organization. You know, Remy was the president of Red Sox Nation, and it was great. And the Red Sox denied him like using the video. Red Sox and NESN said, "No, we don't want it. Thank you, but no." They couldn't have messed this up in a bigger way.
Yeah, especially since it was leaked on Twitter. I mean, not leaked, announced
he put
on Twitter
it out
by Orsillo. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it couldn't have been handled more poorly. I don't know what happened at NESN and why they shoved Don Orsillo out the door, because he was one of those guys that I wanted to be Vin Scully. I wanted him to work for the Red Sox for 60 years and just be the voice of Red Sox baseball for my entire life. And it was handled so poorly, and I don't know what happened between NESN and Don, but it pisses me off. I've been like retweeting everything I've seen about it, because Red Sox fans all over the place are like, "This is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I agree.
That's been my whole feed this week. Just Mark Rowland's retweets of Jeremy Remy content. It's understandable.
Jerry Remy was, like I said, he's him and Orsillo are one of the, if not the main reason I wanted to get into broadcasting, because you got the pizza, man. The guy threw the pizza and they're laughing their asses off. And Jerry Remy lost a tooth in the broadcast booth once. That one doesn't get shared enough. That's hysterical. Remy loses a tooth and Orsillo was like, "What is that?" He's like, "It's my tooth. It just fell out." Why? It's so funny. But so I just gotta say, rest in peace, Jerry Remy and Nesson. What the hell are you doing? Get Don Orsillo out to Fenway Park as soon as possible. Let him do a half an hour speech before a game, for all I care.
Yeah,
but make also, sure preferably Don's message gets read.
Yeah, preferably maybe like delay it, a Garrett Cole start. Get him really pissed off by doing that. Ideally,
every week I'm just gonna come on here and say he's a whiny baby. We did one of these on opening day, and I was just like, what a piece of shit. You yelled at Billy Crystal, the guy who made the best movie about the Yankees. He's the biggest Yankee fan on the planet. Yeah. And you're yelling at him to get off the mound. Shut up. It was
4 minutes?
4 minutes. Yeah. It was 4 minutes. Shut your mouth and try not to give up absolute moonshots to Rafael Devers next time.
That was a good karma moment for sure.
It was a great karma moment. But yeah, I think that'll just about do it. I do want to ask you, who do you got in the World Series this year?
World Series. I have been going back and forth on this one. I had the White Sox initially in the World Series for the American League. I don't know if I believe in that team enough to say that anymore. I'm totally drinking the Blue Jays Kool-Aid, though. So I'm saying Blue Jays Brewers, and give me the Blue Jays in 6.
I've got the Blue Jays over the Braves in 7. Rick had, I believe, the Dodgers over the Blue Jays. So we're all in on the Blue Jays on this.
All in.
On
all
this
the
show. Kool-Aid. I've got my bet slip up there for the Blue Jays to win the World Series. So just waiting for that one to cash. Noah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, my friend. We don't talk enough. We got to start doing things like this more often. We did have that stretch where we were on each other's podcasts like once a week.
Good old days.
Yeah. But thank you so much for doing this. It was great that I didn't have to sit here and talk alone for an hour and 17 minutes because I hate doing that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. I had a great time.
Yeah. And we'll have you, I want to have you back on at some point for the full show with Rick and, sort of get varying opinions on here because it's usually just Rick and I yelling for an hour. But everybody, thank you for tuning in. Remember, follow us on Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're also on Spreaker. You can like, comment, subscribe here on YouTube if that's where you're watching this. This is also going to be a VOD on Twitch, so follow us on Twitch.
Basically anything.
If you're watching us on Twitter, you probably followed the Twitter by now, but follow us there. My Twitter is marker_box. Rick's is at RickWienerNY. The show, box_score_pod. And make sure to follow my friend Noah here at NoahLyons01. And yeah, we will see you next week. Thanks once again.